Hey guys, this is Ray the Messenger. In today's video I'm going to talk to you about what you should do when you're afraid to fail. Now let's get right into the video. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is where does the fear of failure actually come from? This is a really interesting aspect. So the fear of failure oftentimes is what I've seen as a self-defense mechanism. You're using your fear of failure as a reason why you can't even start. So your own ego is protecting yourself from going out there and trying something and maybe not being good at it if you think you are. So this is really an ego protecting mechanism. So let's say, I'll give you a concrete example so you can wrap your mind around this. So let's say you really think, oh, I'm actually really good at a certain kind of thing. So maybe you think, oh, I'm the best at basketball. I'm really good at basketball. This is what your ego tells you because maybe in the past you played a couple of games with your stupid friends and you beat them at some games, and now you have that kind of ego that you've built up inside of your mind, right? But we don't know if that exists or not. But inside of your mind, you're the biggest, you're the greatest player of all time. But now let's say somebody challenges you to a game where you know, oh, these people are really good. If you watch some people and you see them playing on the court and you realize, oh man, this guy is good. And if I go out there and start to compete against these guys, maybe I will fail. So I will try to make up some excuses. This is what your ego and what your subconsciousness will do in order to protect you. And so you can keep that status, because people don't want to lose status. People don't want to embarrass themselves and they don't want to look foolish. This is oftentimes the reason why you're having the fear of failure, and you can use it as an excuse. You're like, oh man, but I could, but I don't want to. But if I would want to, I would just do it. And this is the reality that probably most likely we don't know, because you've never been out there, because the fear of failure is holding you back. So how can you actually now overcome that? The first thing is you need to realize that this is an ego protection mechanism most of the time. Or maybe in other cases it can be something else. Maybe it's past trauma. Maybe in the past you tried out something and you failed miserably at it, and it went so deep inside of your mind that you can't shrug it off, right? The trauma was so strong when you did that thing and everybody left. So maybe you tried to talk to some kind of girl, maybe at your school, I don't know what you were doing, and then everybody left. And so the big trauma happened inside of that moment, and from that point on you have that fear of failing again because it was so traumatic. So you need to go inside of your own mind and start exploring the reason why you're having that fear. If you understand the fear, where it's coming from, then you can start acting towards it. And once you have recognized what the reason is, then you need to start taking the small steps. And the best way that I've seen people overcome this fear is by starting to take action. This is the most important thing. This is the thing that you have to put above everything else. The first step, you should do that, find out why the fear exists. But even if you don't find out why the fear exists and you just go out there and try to confront it, that's the best way to solve it. This is the main way to solve it. If you combine that with the other first way I've talked about, then you will go very fast in solving that problem. So what are the first steps? So take the first goal and say, okay, I'm afraid to play actually against some people who are really good in basketball, just for the basketball example because it's easier. So you're like, okay, I'm going to start playing the game often and more times. I'm going to practice. So when the practice meets the opportunity, then you can see how good you really are, and you can start proving yourself. And you start playing against people that are maybe not that good, and then you wrap it up. And then when you lose maybe a game against some people where you're like, oh man, I should actually beat these guys, then your ego will take the first little hit, but it's not that embarrassing because you will probably not lose that bad. So you'll not get massively embarrassed. Because I'll give you another example. If I'm just going in there and playing against some people where I know, oh man, these guys are like 7 foot tall, they're like extremely good at basketball, maybe they're playing professionally already, then I'm going to get embarrassed, right? But if I go in there and I'm like, I'm playing against some people who are like, they're decent, but I know that maybe I can probably beat them, and even if they beat you, it's not that bad because you will probably not get stomped. Of course, maybe you will get stomped, but then that's a positive experience, a positive reference experience, because you went out there and you failed, and the bigger you fail actually, and the more you can take that failure, the better you will improve and the faster you improve. Because you can never ever get better at something and go out there just by living and existing in a vacuum. Stop living and existing in a vacuum. What do I mean by that? You cannot just sit there and claim, oh, I'm the best at something, or I know how to do something, if you've never been out there and proven it. There's no proof also inside of your mind. Because listen, your mind is not stupid. Your mind knows that you're not Michael Jordan because you haven't done what Michael Jordan has done. So in order for your mind to recognize that you have massive skills, or that you are actually as competent as you think you are, you need to prove to yourself and your own mind. You have to show yourself. Your mind needs the same proof that also the other people need from you in order to recognize you. Your mind is not dumb. You cannot trick yourself. You can trick yourself to a certain degree, and that's also one thing that I recommend, is tricking yourself into believing that you are as good or even better as you probably are. But also that confidence needs to be backed up by reality. You cannot be just just be an airhead and think you can do everything because you will get embarrassed. And that will happen extremely fast. And the better you believe inside of your mind that you are, the harder it will hit you when you realize, oh man, but I have no proof to back it up. And that's the difference between the people who are really confident and the people who are just like faking it. So I give you an example. If you're like let's say you're one of the best players in the world, right, at something. Let's say, just say tennis as an example, right? You're one of the best tennis players, then you can have that massive confidence because you have proof to back it up. I can run around and claim, man, I'm the best in the world, but there's then proof behind it. And if you don't have that proof, then it's like it's meaningless words and you're bullshitting yourself. So you need to go out there and start acquiring I call it like proof for your own self, right? You need the proof. When you collect the proof, then you can go out there and have the confidence, and you can start easily managing the fear of failure, because then you realize when you go through the failure over and over and over again, you realize that failure is just one step of it. It's not that bad. But you can never realize that if you don't go the first step. That's the main thing. You need to take the first step and then hit hard that first step. Hit it over and over and over again. Fail a bunch of times. You need to fail your way forward. That's also one big motto that I had in my life and that I also still am practicing to this day. If having failures over and over and over again, getting rejected, doing this, doing things that I'm uncomfortable with, doing things I really don't want to do, but I know that I have to do them because I need to progress forward. And when I progress forward on my way and I don't do something right, I will have a quote-unquote failure, but through that failure, I can realize and recognize what are the mistakes and how can we improve the mistakes so we don't make the mistakes again. And this is how you can get better. If you don't make the mistakes again, then you can go forward. I'll give you another example so you can really understand this 100%. Let's say I'm sitting in the middle of a jungle and I have some kind of roadmap, but I don't know if the roadmap is accurate. So I start running around through the jungle in order to get back to civilization, and now I take one path where I'm like, oh, maybe this path works. So I run around through that path and then I see, oh yeah, I cannot go through this path, or this path leads in the middle of nowhere. Then I turn around, go the other way. And this is how you can go through the jungle and try to find your way. You go through the way where you think, oh, this is the most likely way that gets me back to civilization. You take that way, and then if you see, oh, this doesn't work, readjust, course correct. This is what you need to do. So if you can take one thing away from this video and put everything to work, it's take the first step. Write down, what am I going to do tomorrow, or maybe even right now, through this day. What am I going to do, like, as the first step to tackle the fear of failure in whatever area I have in my life? Take one small step and try to do that first step. If you can't do it alone, find somebody who can motivate you. Give them $1,000 and tell them, if I don't do the thing that I just said, you will keep the money. And trust me, if let's say $1,000 is a lot to you, then it will probably work. For me, I don't know if it would work. Maybe for you it works, or maybe even for me it works. I haven't tried it, but this is one way that I saw it work for other people. For me, I just did it alone. I just took the first step alone because I had that desire, I had that willpower. But if you need motivation, find somebody else and then you can do it. I hope this video was helpful for you. Go out there, put the work in, take action, and then you will probably also overcome your fear of failure. Until next time, have a nice day. Goodbye.